My mother calculated every penny she spent raising me, then billed me $394,000 in front of 52 relatives at her birthday party. I didn't argue. I just smiled and opened my laptop. Look, I'm 32 years old, and 2 years ago, I thought I understood my family. I was wrong about that. Dead wrong. Let me back up a bit. My name's Cameron Hayes. I'm a CPA in Seattle. My mom, Patricia, is 55. My dad, David, is 57. And my older brother, Brandon, is 33. Brandon's a cardiac surgeon. You know, saves lives, makes the big money, drives the nice car. And me? I count other people's money for a living. That's how my mom always put it anyway. For as long as I can remember, man. Patricia treated me like I was the family disappointment. Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every single gathering, it was the same script. Brandon this, Brandon that. Brandon got into Harvard Medical School. Brandon bought a house in Boston. Brandon performed his first solo surgery. And what about Cameron? Well, Cameron just counts money. That's it. My dad never really got it. David would sit there looking confused, like he couldn't understand why his wife treated our two sons so differently. But he never stepped in. Never said a word. Just let it happen. The only person who ever seemed to notice something was off was my grandma Maggie. Dad's mom, 78 years old, sharp as a tack, owns this beautiful ranch out in Montana. She'd watch Patricia tear into me at family dinners, and you could see it in her face. She knew something wasn't right. So 6 months back, Patricia decides she's throwing herself this massive 55th birthday party. And where does she want it? Maggie's ranch in Montana. 52 family members. Huge deal. 3 weeks before the party, I get the call. Patricia needs me to come early. Real early. She's got this whole list of stuff that needs doing. Set up the grills, hang decorations, organize the tables, handle the logistics. Basically turn her birthday party into my full-time job for 3 weeks. And Brandon? Brandon got to show up the day of. Just roll in whenever. Looking fresh. No stress. I should have seen it coming, but I don't know, man. Part of me still wanted her approval. Still thought maybe if I worked hard enough, did everything right, she'd finally see me. Stupid, I know. So I drive out to Montana. Spend 3 weeks busting my ass in the August heat, building this whole elaborate setup. My hands are blistered from moving furniture. I'm sunburned, exhausted, but I get it done. The morning of the party, I'm up at 5 a.m. doing final checks, making sure everything's perfect. And that's when my phone starts blowing up. Texts from cousins, from uncles, from people I haven't talked to in years, all asking the same thing. Did you see Patricia's email? I open my inbox. 6:14 a.m. Email from Mom. Subject line, family transparency, important. I click it open and, brother, I'm telling you, my blood went cold. She'd sent this email to all 52 guests with an Excel spreadsheet attached. Professional formatting, color-coded rows, formulas, and everything. The title at the top read, The Cost of Raising a Failure. She'd itemized every single expense she'd ever made on me, from the hospital bill when I was born right up to my 30th birthday. Every doctor's appointment, every pair of shoes, every baseball uniform, school supplies, groceries, car insurance when I was 17, everything. $394,000. But it wasn't just the numbers, man. She'd added little comments next to each item. Next to baseball uniforms, it said, wasted money, quit after 1 season. Next to college application fees, it said, settled for state school. Next to my graduation gift, it said, became an accountant. Not even CPA yet at the time. Just tearing me down line by line in a spreadsheet sent to my entire family. I'm standing there in Maggie's kitchen at 6:15 in the morning, staring at my phone, and I can't even process it. I'd spent 3 weeks setting up this woman's birthday party. And this is what she does. This is her gift to herself. Public humiliation of her youngest son. The party starts at noon. People show up. Nobody knows what to say to me. They're all looking at their phones, looking at me, looking away. It's awkward as hell. Patricia's acting like everything's normal. Smiling, hugging people, playing the gracious host. Brandon shows up around 11:30, fresh as a daisy. Gives me this weird look, but doesn't say anything. We do the whole lunch thing. Barbecue I'd spent 2 days preparing. Everyone's eating, drinking, trying to pretend they didn't all get that email. Then Patricia stands up, taps her wine glass, says she wants to make a special announcement. She starts talking about family, about sacrifice, about how hard it is to raise children in today's world. And then she pulls out a printed copy of the spreadsheet. Full size, poster board, professionally mounted in a custom frame. And she starts reading it, out loud, in front of everyone, line by line. Expense by expense, $394,000. When she gets to the end, she walks over to Maggie's fireplace and hangs the thing right there above the mantel, like it's some kind of trophy. A reminder, she says, of what it costs to raise an unsuccessful child. Then she looks right at me, expects me to, apologize? Grovel? Accept the humiliation like I always did? 52 people staring, waiting to see what I'd do. And that's when I smiled, pulled out my laptop, opened it right there at the picnic table, told her calmly that I'd also been keeping track of some numbers, that I had a presentation of my own to share with the family. Her face went from triumphant to confused real quick. I pulled up my email. 3 attachments ready to go. Files I'd been building for 3 years in an encrypted folder I called my evidence vault. Typed all 52 family members into the address line. Looked at Patricia one more time. She still didn't get it. Still thought she'd won. I hit send and watched 52 phones light up at the same time. 3 files, 3 crimes. And she had absolutely no idea what was coming. You ever seen 52 people check their phones at the exact same time? It's surreal, man. Like watching a wave roll through a crowd. Ding, 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 ding. Notification after notification. Everyone reaching for their pockets. Patricia's looking around confused. Brandon's got this weird frozen smile on his face. My dad. David just went pale. Got up and walked out of the pavilion without saying a word. I stayed quiet. Let them read. The first email attachment was titled, File 1, Educational Fund Theft. Clean, professional. Just like Mom's spreadsheet. Except mine had something hers didn't. Proof. See, back when Brandon and I were kids, our grandparents on my mom's side set up education funds for both of us. Identical amounts, $95,000 each. They died when I was 15. Brandon was 18. The money was supposed to sit there until we needed it for college. Brandon used his for Harvard Medical School. Graduated debt-free. Never owed a penny. Me? 2 months before I started college, I tried to access my fund. Nothing there. Empty account. $95,000. Gone. I asked Patricia about it. She told me the investments had gone bad during the recession. Bad luck. Nothing she could do. Told me I'd have to take out student loans like everyone else. So I did. Borrowed $73,000. Worked 2 jobs through college. Graduated with debt that took me years to pay off, and I only recently finished clearing it. What I didn't know, what I didn't find out until 3 years ago when I started digging, was that those investments never went bad. Patricia transferred the full $95,000 out of my account in June of 2012, 2 months before my freshman year. And I had the bank statements to prove it. $52,000 went to a BMW dealership in Seattle. X5, luxury SUV, still sitting in her driveway. $43,000 went to a contractor for kitchen and bathroom renovations at her house. My college fund paid for my mother's car and her remodel. While I ate ramen and worked graveyard shifts at a warehouse to make rent, I watched people reading, scrolling through the bank statements, the transfer receipts, the dealership invoice, everything documented, everything time-stamped. My cousin Rachel's jaw literally dropped. Uncle Mike stood up and walked away from his table. Aunt Linda was shaking her head in disbelief. Patricia tried to laugh it off, said something about how it was complicated, how I wouldn't understand family finances, but nobody was buying it. You could see it in their faces. Then people opened File 2. Federal tax fraud, 7-year pattern. This one was worse. From 2017 to 2024, Patricia claimed me as a dependent on her tax returns. Every single year. Got the tax credits, the deductions, everything. Only problem? I haven't lived with her since I was 20 years old. I had my own apartment in Seattle. Paid my own rent, my own utilities, my own everything. Completely independent. But she was using my social security number without my permission, filing me as a dependent when I absolutely was not. The IRS eventually caught on. Started sending me audit letters in 2023. I had no idea what they were talking about at first. Thought it was a scam. Turns out it wasn't. I had to hire a tax attorney. $4,200 out of my own pocket just to investigate what was happening. And that's when we found it. 7 years of fraudulent claims. $38,000 in illegal tax benefits. The CPA report was in the attachment. IRS correspondence. Everything. People weren't just shocked anymore. They were getting angry. I could hear it. Muttering. Whispers getting louder. Patricia's face was red now. She was trying to explain, trying to justify, saying something about how technically I was still her dependent because she'd raised me. Made no sense. Nobody was listening. Brandon wasn't saying anything, just staring at his phone. Real quiet. Then they got a File 3, identity theft and credit card fraud. This is where it got personal. Between 2015 and 2018, 3 credit cards were opened in my name. Cards I never applied for, never authorized, never even knew existed. $52,000 in fraudulent charges. My credit score tanked to 490 when I was 22 years old. 490. I couldn't rent a decent apartment. Couldn't finance a car. Got rejected everywhere I applied. Spent years living in this terrible studio with roaches because nobody else would approve me. Took the bus everywhere because no bank would give me an auto loan. It took me 5 years and 3 different lawyers to even figure out what happened. 5 years to clear my name, to get the fraud documented, to start rebuilding my credit from nothing. And the whole time, it was her. Patricia had opened those cards, made the purchases, destroyed my financial life before it even started. The documentation was all there. Police reports, credit bureau disputes, the whole paper trail. But then I added something extra to File 3, something I've been holding on to. A section titled Delivery Records and Accomplice Evidence. See, those 3 fraudulent credit cards? They weren't delivered to Patricia's address. They were delivered to Boston, Massachusetts, to Brandon's apartment, for 4 years. Every statement, every replacement card, every piece of mail, signed for by Brandon Hayes. I had the delivery confirmations, the signature records, everything. And the purchases? They weren't just random stuff. Designer furniture for Brandon's place. High-end electronics, expensive clothes from places I'd never even heard of. And one purchase in particular. December 2021. Rolex Submariner. $11,800. Charged to a fraudulent credit card in my name. Delivered to Brandon's address in Boston. described in Patricia's text messages as a residency completion gift for her golden boy, the same Rolex that Brandon was wearing right now. At the party, on his wrist, I added photos to the file, screenshots of the purchase receipt, pictures of the watch from Brandon's Instagram posts, side-by-side comparison, match, perfect match. The whole family was staring at Brandon now. His wife Jennifer grabbed his wrist, looked at the watch, looked at her phone, looked at him. Brandon's face went white. Started stuttering something about how he didn't know, how Mom had told him it was a gift, how he had no idea where it came from. But the delivery signatures didn't lie. 4 years of packages, his signature on every single one. Jennifer stood up, didn't say a word, just took off her wedding ring, set it on the table, and walked to her car. My uncle stood up and pointed at Patricia, told her she should be ashamed, that what she'd done was criminal, that he wanted nothing to do with her. One by one, people started blocking her number, right there, at the party, pulling out their phones and just cutting her off. 51 people. 51 out of 52 family members blocked Patricia Hayes in the span of about 10 minutes. People started leaving, gathering their stuff, saying quiet goodbyes to me, to Maggie, to my dad who still hadn't come back. Just exodus. Mass rejection. Patricia tried to stop them, tried to explain that these were just family expenses, that she'd had the right, that I was being dramatic. Nobody listened. They just left. Brandon was still sitting there, sweating, trying to text Jennifer, trying to defend himself to anyone who'd listen. Told people that Mom had said it was her money, that she had the right to use it however she wanted, that he didn't commit any crimes. I looked at him, really looked at him, and I said real quiet, just loud enough for the people still there to hear, "You want to know what else I have? You really want to know?" He went completely still, shook his head. Tiny movement, panicked. Patricia heard me though, turned around, face full of rage and confusion, shouted at me, "What else? What else could you possibly have?" That's when the pavilion doors opened. David walked back in, face like stone, walked right up behind me and put his hand on my shoulder. He looked at Patricia, looked at Brandon, said in this steady voice I'd never heard from him before, "I already saw the fourth file, Patricia. I know what you did, what you both did." He squeezed my shoulder, called me son, emphasized the word. Then he looked right at me and said, "Show her, Cameron. Show them all. She deserves to know what it feels like." I pulled up the fourth file, the one I'd been holding for 3 years, the screenshot I never wanted to use, and I hit send one more time. The nuclear option. The fourth file was just one image, a screenshot. 3 years old. I'd taken it by accident, really. March 22nd, 2022. I was at Brandon's place in Boston for a medical conference weekend. He'd left his phone on the kitchen counter while he was in the shower. It buzzed. I glanced over, just out of habit. Saw Mom's name on the screen. Saw the message preview. And my whole world shifted. I grabbed my phone and took a picture of his screen before I even processed what I was doing. Something in my gut told me to document it, to save it, just in case. Then I never looked at it again. Buried it in an encrypted folder. Told myself I'd never need it, that it was too much, too nuclear. But Patricia just had to push it, had to humiliate me one more time. So I opened that screenshot, pulled it up on my laptop, and I sent it to 52 people. File 4. Title: The Real Reason. The message was from Patricia to Brandon. Timestamp: March 22nd, 2022, 11:47 p.m. She'd been drinking. You could tell from the typos, the rambling tone, but the content was crystal clear. It read, that one isn't David's biological son. Never tell anyone. If he finds out, he'll leave me, and I'll lose the house, the pension, everything. That's why I always treated him different. Every time I look at Cameron, I see my mistake. You're my real son. Cameron is just consequences. Silence. Complete silence in that pavilion. I watched people read it, reread it, try to process what they were seeing. Patricia's face went from red to white. She started shaking her head, reaching for phones, trying to explain before people even looked up. But there was more to the file. I'd included context, a second page, explanation of what happened, based on what I'd pieced together over 3 years of digging after I saw that message. Summer of 1994. Patricia was 19, working at a restaurant in Austin, Texas. Had a boyfriend back home in Seattle. Guy named David Hayes. She had a fling with a coworker, James Mitchell. Quick thing, couple weeks. Got pregnant, panicked. Flew back to Seattle. Told David she'd missed him so much she couldn't stay away. They got married 6 weeks later. Fast ceremony. Family barely had time to plan it. I was born 7 months after the wedding. Premature, she told everyone. Had to stay in the NICU for weeks. Except I wasn't premature. I was right on time. Just not David's. She'd hidden it for 30 years. 30 years of living with that secret. Of looking at me every single day and seeing evidence of her lie. Of treating me like garbage because I reminded her of the worst mistake she'd ever made. Every comparison to Brandon. Every cruel comment. Every time she looked at me with that expression I could never understand. It all made sense now. It wasn't about my career. Wasn't about my personality. Wasn't about anything I'd actually done. It was about DNA, about guilt. About the fact that I threatened her entire life just by existing. Brandon had known for 2 years. The message confirmed it. She told him one night when she was drunk, made him swear to never tell anyone. And he'd kept that promise. Watched her abuse me for 2 more years and said nothing. Protected his inheritance. Protected his status as the golden child. Protected Mom's secret. At my expense, people were standing up now, not to leave. To get away from Patricia and Brandon. Physical distance. Like they couldn't stand to be close to them. My cousin Mike walked right up to Brandon. Told him he was disgusting. That knowing what was happening and staying silent made him just as guilty. Brandon tried to defend himself. Said he was protecting the family. That telling the truth would have destroyed everything. Mike got in his face. Asked him whose family he was protecting, because it sure wasn't Cameron's. Patricia was spiraling. Trying to explain that it was complicated, that she'd made a mistake when she was young, that she built a whole life on top of it and couldn't just blow it up. Someone asked her why she didn't just tell David 30 years ago. Why she lied for 3 decades. She didn't have an answer for that. Just kept saying she couldn't. She'd lose everything. My Aunt Sarah said real quiet, "You already lost everything, Patricia. You just don't know it yet." And that's when David spoke. He'd been standing behind me this whole time. Hand on my shoulder. Silent. He said in this broken voice, 30 years, Patricia. I raised him for 30 years, changed his diapers, taught him to ride a bike, helped with homework, walked him through breakups, celebrated every achievement you told him wasn't good enough. His hand tightened on my shoulder. Continued, and you let me love him like my son while you punished him for existing, while you treated him like he was worth nothing, while you poisoned every moment of his childhood with your guilt. Patricia tried to interrupt. Started saying something about how David was a good father, how that was never the issue. He cut her off, told her that DNA didn't change a damn thing, that Cameron was his son, period, had been for 30 years, would be for the rest of his life. Then he looked at Brandon, asked him how long he'd known. Brandon admitted it. 2 years. Said Mom had told him during a breakdown. Begged him to keep the secret. David asked him if he thought about me at all during those 2 years. If he'd considered what it was like for me, being treated like trash, never understanding why. Brandon went quiet, had no answer. David let go of my shoulder, walked straight past Patricia without looking at her, got in his truck and just drove off. Tires spinning in the gravel. Gone. Patricia collapsed into a chair, started crying, asking why I had to ruin everything. Why couldn't I just let it go like I always did? Maggie stood up for the first time since the files started dropping. She's 78, but she walked like she was on a mission. Looked at Patricia dead in the eye and said, "Get out of my house." Patricia tried to argue, said this was a family matter, that Maggie should stay out of it. Maggie repeated herself, louder, "Get out of my house." People started blocking Brandon's number now too. His phone kept buzzing with the notifications. Person after person cutting him off. Jennifer still hadn't come back. His wife was gone. His family was rejecting him. Everything falling apart in real time. He looked at me. Actually had the nerve to look hurt, like I'd betrayed him. Told me I didn't have to do this, that we could have worked it out privately. I just stared at him, didn't say a word, because what was there to say? He'd watched Mom abuse me for 30 years, knew the secret for 2, benefited from every crime she committed, wore a watch bought with fraud while I struggled to rebuild my credit. And he thought we could work it out privately. The pavilion emptied. People left. Some hugged me on the way out. Told me they were sorry, that they should have done something years ago. Patricia eventually got in her car and drove off, still crying, still trying to call people who'd already blocked her. Brandon lingered, kept trying to explain, trying to justify. Finally, my uncle physically escorted him to his car, told him to leave and not come back. By 11 p.m., the ranch was empty except for Maggie and me. She made tea. We sat on the porch. Didn't talk, just sat there. Around midnight, she got up. Went inside. I heard her on the phone, calling someone, asking them if they could meet first thing in the morning. Said it was urgent, about her will. She came back out, patted my hand, told me to get some sleep. But I couldn't sleep. I just sat there on that porch, processing 30 years of my life through a completely different lens. Every memory recontextualized, every moment of rejection explained. Every question I'd ask myself, why doesn't she love me? What did I do wrong? Why am I not enough? Answered. I hadn't done anything wrong. I'd just been born. Around 2 a.m., I saw headlights coming up the dirt road. Long driveway. Had to be someone who knew the property. Truck pulled up. Engine cut off. David stepped out. Face red. Eyes swollen. He'd been crying. Probably for hours. He walked up to the porch. Sat down next to me. And for the first time in my entire life, my dad wrapped his arms around me and just held on. Didn't say anything at first. Just held me. Then finally, in this rough whisper, he said, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't protect you from her. I should have stopped it. I should have seen what was happening." I told him it wasn't his fault. He didn't know. He pulled back, looked me right in the eyes, said, "Cameron, listen to me. I don't care about biology. I don't care about DNA. I don't care about any of it. You're my son. You've always been my son. That will never change. Do you understand me?" And man, I couldn't hold it together anymore. Just broke down. 30 years of wanting to hear something like that. 30 years of feeling like I wasn't enough. We sat there until sunrise, talking, processing, grieving the family we thought we had. When the sun came up, David told me he was filing for divorce Monday morning, that he couldn't stay married to someone who'd lied for 30 years, who'd abused our kid, who'd destroyed so much. I didn't argue, didn't try to fix it. Just told him I understood, that I'd support whatever he needed to do. At 8 a.m., Maggie's lawyer pulled up to the ranch. She met with him in her study for 2 hours. When she came out, she had this look on her face, satisfied, determined. She called me into the study, showed me the updated will. The whole distribution had changed. Patricia's share dropped from 40% to 5%. Brandon went from 25 to 10. David went from 20 to 30. And me, I went from 15% to 35, plus the main house. She'd also written a check, handed it to me, $65,000. Told me it was my graduation present from 2014. That she'd given it to Patricia to pass along to me. That Patricia had told her I'd refused it out of pride. Another lie. Another theft. Maggie looked me dead in the eye and said, "You deserve better. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. But I see it now." Patricia tried calling her 90 times that week. Maggie never answered. The family had spoken. And the verdict was final. 3 months. That's how long it took for everything to completely collapse for Patricia and Brandon. David filed for divorce that Monday morning, like he said he would. Didn't ask for much, just wanted out. The house they'd lived in for 28 years was marital property, so it got sold. Patricia had to move out within 6 weeks. She tried calling everyone. Family members, friends, people from church. Nobody answered. 51 people had blocked her. The only person who hadn't was Maggie, and Maggie wasn't taking her calls either. Patricia showed up at the ranch twice, trying to negotiate. Trying to get Maggie to change the will back. Said it wasn't fair, that she'd raised 2 kids, that she deserved her share. Maggie told her through the door, "You made your choices for 30 years. Now live with them. And just." Didn't open it? Second time, Patricia showed up. Maggie called the sheriff, had her removed from the property. Told her if she came back, she'd file for a restraining order. That was it. Door closed permanently. The IRS opened a formal investigation into the tax fraud. 7 years of fraudulent dependent claims. That's federal crime territory, man. Patricia hired a lawyer, tried to argue it was an honest mistake, that she'd misunderstood the rules. Except I had documentation proving she knew exactly what she was doing. Text messages where she joked about the extra refund money. Records showing she'd been filing me as dependent while I was filing independently in the same years. The prosecutor's office got involved. Criminal charges pending. Patricia looking at possible jail time and definitely massive fines. She tried to reach out to me through distant relatives. Sent messages saying we needed to talk, that I didn't understand, that she could explain everything if I'd just listen. I blocked her number, had my lawyer send a cease and desist. Made it crystal clear, no contact, ever. She violated it anyway. Showed up at my office in Seattle 2 months after the party. Security called me, said there was a woman in the lobby demanding to see me. I went to the police station that afternoon. Filed for a restraining order. Judge granted it within 24 hours. Patricia violated it twice. Once showing up at my apartment building. Once waiting outside my gym. Got arrested both times. Spent a night in jail each time. After the second arrest, she finally got the message. Moved to Spokane. Had to find a job at 54 years old. Ended up doing basic administrative work for half what she used to make. Lost everything. House, family, status, pension split in the divorce. Living in a small apartment. Completely isolated. Part of me almost felt bad. Almost. Then I'd remember the spreadsheet. The theft. The fraud. 30 years of abuse. And the feeling would pass. Brandon had it almost as bad. Jennifer filed for divorce the week after the party. Found out about the Rolex. Found out he'd known about the DN, a secret, for 2 years. That was it for her. Done. She got the house in Boston. Brandon had to move into a rental apartment. His colleagues at the hospital found out what happened. Not all the details, but enough. Word spread. Surgeon who'd been complicit in identity theft and fraud. Who'd accepted gifts bought with stolen credit. He didn't get fired, but he lost patients. People requesting different doctors. His private practice numbers dropped by half. The family completely cut him off. Removed him as beneficiary from insurance policies. Didn't invite him to gatherings. Made it clear he wasn't welcome. He tried to reconcile with me. Emails, texts, letters. Showed up at my apartment once. I never responded. Blocked everything. When he showed up in person, I didn't open the door. Just called building security. He sent this long letter trying to explain, saying he'd been caught between loyalty to mom and loyalty to me. That he'd been scared of losing everything if he told the truth. That he was sorry. I read it once, then threw it away. Because here's the thing. Brandon had a choice every single day for 2 years. He could have told me, could have warned me, could have done something. Instead, he wore that Rolex, enjoyed the favoritism, stayed silent while mom destroyed me. You don't come back from that. Not with me. David, though. David became a different person. He took early retirement from his construction job. Said he was done wasting time on things that didn't matter. Wanted to focus on what did. And what mattered was being close to his son. He moved to Seattle 2 months after the party. Got a small place in my neighborhood. We started having dinner every Sunday. Sometimes we'd go fishing. Sometimes just sit and watch baseball. Didn't always talk much. Didn't need to. For the first time in my life, I had a dad who actually showed up. He started dating this woman, Carol, retired teacher. Really sweet. They'd go to museums, take cooking classes, travel. He seemed happy, lighter, like 30 years of weight had lifted. He told me once that leaving Patricia was the best decision he'd ever made, that he should have done it decades ago, that he was sorry he'd let it go on so long. I told him I understood, that it's hard to see dysfunction when you're inside it. He just nodded, said, "Well, I see it now, and I'm done with it." He refused to have any contact with Brandon. Wouldn't take his calls. Wouldn't respond to messages. Told me once, he knew what was happening to you, and he let it continue. That's not the son I raised. I don't know who that person is. As for me, man, those 3 months were complicated. My credit score started climbing. 490 to 560 to 640. By month 3, I was at 782. Finally could qualify for decent apartments, car loans, credit cards on my own merit. I used Maggie's $65,000 gift to pay down my student loans. Went from $73,000 in debt to $18,000. Could actually see the light at the end of that tunnel. Work promoted me to controller, director of accounting. 35% raise. Finally making real money, $110,000 a year. My girlfriend Sarah and I got serious. Started looking at places together. Found this great loft in Capitol Hill. Moved in together that November. Life was good. Actually good. For the first time maybe ever. But it was weird, you know? Processing everything. Understanding that the mom who raised me had spent 30 years punishing me for being born. That nothing I'd ever done would have been enough because the problem was never me. My buddy Marcus kept telling me I should see someone, therapist or something. Work through it. I resisted at first. Felt like a waste of time. What's some stranger gonna tell me that I don't already know? But Sarah pushed too, gently. Said it might help just to talk to someone neutral, so I went. Found a guy who specialized in family trauma. Started going every Thursday. Didn't fix everything, but it helped. Helped me understand the patterns, the coping mechanisms I'd developed, the ways I'd been conditioned to accept mistreatment. Helped me set boundaries, real ones, the kind I'd never been allowed to have before. 2 months after the party, I got a letter, postmarked from Phoenix, Arizona. Return address, James Mitchell. I stared at that envelope for like 20 minutes before I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter, 3 pages, careful handwriting, respectful tone. He explained that he'd done a 23andMe DNA test a few months back. Just for fun, wanted to know his ancestry. And he'd gotten a match notification. Close relative, son, me. He'd done some digging. Found out about the family scandal. The birthday party blow-up, everything. Said he'd had absolutely no idea Patricia had been pregnant. She'd never told him. Never reached out. He'd moved on with his life, got married, had kids, never knew I existed. The letter made it clear he wasn't looking for anything. Wasn't trying to insert himself into my life. Wasn't asking for money or relationship or drama. Just wanted me to know he existed. That if I ever wanted to talk, his door was open. But if I didn't, he understood that too. No pressure. No expectations. No demands. Just honesty. I put the letter in a drawer. Didn't respond right away. Told David about it over dinner that Sunday. Asked him how he felt about it. David took a long drink of his beer. Thought about it. Then said, "Cameron, that man's your biological father. That's a fact. But I'm your dad. That's also a fact. Those two things can both be true without threatening each other." He told me to do whatever felt right. That he wasn't threatened. That nothing would change between us no matter what I decided. So 6 months later, Sarah and I took a road trip through the Southwest. Just exploring. Seeing the desert. And I sent James an email. Said I'd be passing through Phoenix. Asked if he wanted to grab coffee. We met at this little diner in Scottsdale. He showed up on time. Average height, kind of stocky. Grease under his fingernails from the mechanic shop he owned. We talked for 3 hours. About cars mostly. Sports. Life. Surface stuff at first. Then he asked about David. About my dad. And I talked for like 20 minutes straight. About the divorce. About David moving to Seattle. About our Sunday dinners, about fishing trips and baseball games, and how he'd shown up for me when it mattered most. James listened. Didn't interrupt. Didn't try to compete or insert himself. When I finished, he looked me dead in the eye and said, "The man who raises you is your real father. DNA doesn't mean anything compared to that. David's your dad. I'm just the biology guy." That's why I knew he got it. Understood the boundaries. Respected what actually mattered. We finished our coffee. Exchanged numbers. He met Sarah, was respectful and kind. Didn't overstep. Over the next year, it became this casual friendship. I'd visit Phoenix once or twice a year. We'd work on cars in his shop. Watch football, grab dinner. Easy. No pressure. Met his daughters eventually. Amy and Sophie, my half-sisters technically. They were cool. We followed each other on social media. Sent birthday messages. It wasn't a father-son relationship. It was something different. Something lighter. Friendship with shared genetics. And that worked. When Sarah and I got engaged a year later, I invited James to the wedding. He sat with friends of the family, not at the family table. He understood why. Thanked me for including him at all. David walked me down the aisle. Both of us crying. That's where he belonged. That was right. The wedding was at Maggie's ranch. 80 people. Everyone who actually mattered. Patricia didn't get an invitation. Brandon tried to show up anyway. David and my cousins escorted him out. He stood in the driveway yelling that he was my brother, that he had a right to be there. I walked outside. Looked at him. Shot real clear. You were complicit in my abuse for 30 years. You're not my brother. You're nothing to me. Leave. Security removed him. I went back inside. Married Sarah surrounded by people who actually loved me. And I didn't feel guilty. Didn't feel bad. I just felt free. 2 years after that birthday party in Montana, I'm sitting on my balcony in Seattle. Sarah's inside making breakfast. It's Sunday morning. Dad's coming over in an hour for our usual thing. Life looks completely different now. My credit score is 782. Student loans are paid off. Completely. Zero debt for the first time since I was 18 years old. I'm still controller at the firm. Got another raise last year. Savings account actually has money in it. Real money. Emergency fund, retirement contributions, the whole responsible adult thing I never thought I'd be able to do. Sarah and I got married at Maggie's ranch, like I said. That was a year and a half ago now. We're talking about kids. Not rushing it, but it's on the table. And that's wild to me. The idea that I'd want to be a father after everything I went through. But I think about David, about the man who raised me even though we don't share DNA, about how he showed me what real fatherhood looks like. I think maybe I could do that. Maybe I could be that for someone. Maggie's still going strong at 80, sharp as ever. We video chat every Tuesday. She asks about work, about Sarah, about whether we've started looking at houses yet. She wants great-grandkids before she's too old to spoil them properly, she says. The ranch is still in the family. Will be mine and David's eventually. Well, mostly mine based on how she redid the will. But that's years away. Decades, hopefully. Patricia still tries to reach out sometimes. Not often. Maybe once every few months. She's created new email addresses after I blocked the old ones. Sends these long messages about how she's changed, how she's in therapy now, how she wants to make amends. I delete them without reading past the first line. My therapist asked me once if I'd ever consider reconciliation. If there was any part of me that wanted a relationship with her, I thought about it. Really thought about it. And the answer was no. Not anger. Not hatred. Just no. She had 30 years to be a mother. She chose to spend those years punishing me instead. That door is closed. Locked. Not opening again. Brandon stopped trying to contact me about 6 months ago. I guess he finally got the message. Last I heard through the family grapevine, he's still in Boston. Still working. Divorced. Alone. Some of the family talk to him occasionally, but it's surface level. Holiday cards. Brief phone calls. Nobody trusts him anymore. David refuses to speak to him. Told me once that the DNA secret wasn't the unforgivable part. It was the 2 years of silence. Watching me get abused and doing nothing. Benefiting from mom's crimes. That's what David can't get past. I get it. I can't get past it either. James and I still talk. Saw him last month when we were in Arizona visiting Sarah's parents. Had lunch, worked on his truck for a few hours. He's good people. But he's not my dad. He knows it. I know it. We're both fine with that. Sometimes I think about the whole situation. About how Patricia calculated every dollar she spent on me and turned it into a weapon. $394,000 to raise a failure, she said. But you know what she never calculated? The real cost. 30 years of me questioning why I wasn't good enough. 30 years of sabotaged confidence, stolen opportunities, destroyed self-worth. The cost of watching your brother get praised for breathing while you got criticized for existing. The cost of having your mother look at you with disgust and never understanding why. There's no dollar amount for that. No spreadsheet line item that captures what it does to a kid to grow up, knowing his mom wishes he didn't exist. She stole $95,000 from my education fund, $52,000 through credit card fraud, $38,000 in tax fraud. Add it all up, it's $185,000 in actual theft. But the real theft was bigger. She stole my childhood, my peace, my ability to trust, my voice. The difference is, I got most of that back. Not the childhood, that's gone. But the rest of it, the peace, the trust, the voice. I got it back by walking away, by setting boundaries, by choosing the family that chose me instead of the one that rejected me. David chose me every day, even after finding out about the DNA, especially after finding out. Maggie chose me. rewrote her entire will because justice mattered more than blood. Sarah chose me, saw all the damage and mess and trauma, and decided I was worth it anyway. James, in his own way, chose to respect my space, to not complicate things, to just be a decent human being with no agenda. That's family, not the people you're related to, the people who show up. Patricia tried to convince me for 30 years that I was a failure, that I wasn't worth the money she spent, that I'd never measure up. She was wrong. I'm not a failure. I'm a CPA, a controller, a husband, a son to the man who matters. I'm doing fine, better than fine. And my account with her? It's paid in full, not with money, with freedom. She wanted an apology, an admission that I'd wasted her investment, that I owed her something, but I don't owe her a damn thing. I never did. The only thing I owe is to myself. To build the life she tried to convince me I didn't deserve. To be the person she said I'd never become, and I did that. I'm doing it right now. So yeah, was I the asshole for blowing up my mom's birthday party? For exposing her crimes in front of the whole family? For refusing to forgive her even now? I don't know, man. Part of me wonders if I should have handled it privately. If public humiliation was too much. If I went too far. But then I remember that she did the same thing to me first. That spreadsheet. That email to 52 people. That framed poster above the fireplace. She wanted to humiliate me publicly. Make me feel small in front of everyone. I just had receipts when I did it back. Looking back, the red flags were everywhere. The way she treated me different from Brandon. The constant criticism. The way nothing I did was ever good enough. If you're going through something similar with a parent, with anyone, really trust your gut. That feeling that something's wrong? It probably is. And it's okay to walk away. It's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to choose yourself over people who refuse to choose you. Blood doesn't obligate you to accept abuse. Ever. Anyway, I want to know where you guys are listening from. What time is it for you right now? I'm curious how far this story traveled, you know? Drop a comment. Let me know. And if you've got your own story about toxic family, about standing up for yourself, about walking away from people who hurt you, share it. Seriously. You might be the next person telling their story right here. Sometimes just knowing you're not alone in this stuff. It helps. Take care of yourselves, brothers. Set those boundaries. Protect your peace. And don't let anyone convince you you're worth less than you are. Stay strong.